Hello and welcome to Walk the Pod, your daily walking show where I take my podcast for a walk because I don't have a dog. My name is Rachel Wheely, a human in the world walking around a small park behind a large hospital in southwest London, trying to figure out how to be an artist in the world, how to cope in a time of unprecedented uncertainty and difficultness, if that is a word. We're talking about creativity this month. All Series 48 will be based on creativity. And it occurred to me over the weekend that creativity may be a bit daunting as a word. There was a sort of period of time in the 90s where one could be a creative. And that meant going and sitting in an advertising agency, coming up with ideas for adverts for toilet roll, amongst other things. And the idea that you could be a creative kind of indicated that everybody else was not a creative, and maybe. And I think we need to just demystify it a little bit. Creativity could just be connecting things that already exist in novel ways. Welcome to Walk the Pod. So if creativity is just connecting things, then there's nothing to be scared of. It's not some superpower that you either have or you don't. We can have creative ideas about all kinds of things, including simple things like I've just had a new idea about how I can arrange my week so that it's slightly less oppressive and less full of meetings, for example, or I just had a new idea about how to organise my sewing cupboard. Now, I don't have a sewing cupboard, but my sister has a sewing cupboard, and I'm sure she has ideas about how to arrange her sewing cupboard. And those are creative ideas. Scientists have creative ideas, artists have creative ideas, but frankly, every time you have an idea of any description, you've done some creativity. So if it feels like this whole series isn't really for you, that creativity is not something you're able to engage in because you're simply too tired or you're simply exhausted by being alive, I hear you, I really do. It is it's difficult being alive, but actually you might be being more creative than you give yourself credit for. So that's really the main thing I want to sort of think about today. And Maria Popova, who writes the Marginalian, previously known as Brain Pickings, a wonderful website full of brilliant insight into the creative process, being an artist and how to be alive and human in the world, believes that creativity is all about connecting things and is really only about connecting things. So if you take any thing that you can think of, it's almost certainly possible to frame it as a combination of two existing things smooshed together in a new way. And I've been reading a lot of books about creativity in my research for this series, and there seem to be one or two things that are very much focused on by the people writing the books. The people writing the books are creative, there's no doubt about it, very successful creatives as well. The likes of Hugh MacLeod and Austin Kleon, and of course Maria Popova herself and everything that she writes about on Brain Pickings. They all give very sort of similar advice, as does Mason Curry, who's tracked and documented the daily rituals of hundreds of creative people. And I would say there is a theme to everybody who creates, and that is that it is akin to the film Groundhog Day with Bill Murray. In that, to be creative, we have to make sacrifices and commitments to the creative process such that we're going to go into our studio on a regular basis, depending on what our weekly schedule looks like. We're going to sit down in front of a blank piece of paper or a blank manuscript or a blank screen, and we're going to put stuff into the world that isn't there already. And we may have to do this for years before we start making things that we actually feel proud of. We're going to have to learn a lot of skills in order to learn what the rules are, in order to then break the rules. But mostly we're going to have to just keep doing it, keep putting things into the world over and over again. But it can be amazing how simple some of the things that count as creative output can be. Hugh MacLeod's book is all about doodles that he did on the backs of business cards whilst he was sitting in bars. Austin Kleon's work is sometimes deleting all of basically redacting entire pages of newsprint in order to make sort of almost poems emerge from what he hasn't deleted. These things are terrifyingly simple, but they are creative nevertheless. And G.K. Chesterton said the most beautiful part of any picture is the frame, which sort of indicates that limitations unlock our creativity. So the fact that we've restricted ourselves to only being able to create what we can draw on the back of a business card, or in the case of the White Stripes, only creating with what we can do with 3 antique instruments, or in the case of Dr. Seuss, what we can create with only 50 words. That limitation, that restriction is what unleashes our creativity with what we are actually playing with, and sort of frees it up as a game, something we can play with, rather than having the rather daunting lack of limitation that is the blank page and any digital or analog artistic equipment you can think of. Because actually the more skilled you are and the more equipment you have, the less limited you are. I can't remember which artist it was now, but there is an artist who is referenced in one of the books I was reading, who couldn't do figures at all to save his life, and became one of the greatest landscape painters to ever have walked the earth, because he just couldn't do people. So he didn't do people. So if you can't do something, don't feel daunted by that. Just build it into your process. Just think, well, okay, I can't draw faces. I'm not gonna draw everything other than faces, or whatever it is. It doesn't need to hold you back that you can't do X, Y, and Z. It could in fact be the way to start limiting your creative practice in a way that makes it possible to make something completely unique. It's Monday, July the 15th. What can I see directly in front of me? Well, I'm walking around a park behind the hospital and looking at pigeons dancing around after each other on a rather wet grassy area with poplar trees or plane trees, sort of resplendent in reasonably fresh green leaves, and a sky that is overcast and wet, and it's sort of trying to rain. Not very hard, but it is trying to rain. It's actually rather a nice day. I quite enjoy a rainy day, and the petrichor is something we've talked about before, that lovely smell of rain on hot pavement. So there's quite a bit of that in the air. And it means the park is very, very deserted. There's barely anybody here at all because it's raining, and so that means I get to stroll and to chat to you at full volume without worrying too much that people are going to think there's that mad lady again walking around talking to herself, because that's what I do in the park, of course. Everything looks very, very green. I can hear overwhelmingly coos of wood pigeons. Had a lovely jaunt to Richmond Park last night while the European football final was on. England were playing Spain, and Sam and I decided to take the opportunity to get in the car and drive to Richmond Park on quiet roads while everyone else was watching the football. And we had a great time. We were looking for little owls, but we actually found kestrels and bunnies and deer and many bugs and insects. It was absolutely terrific. A wonderful time. We even saw a bat, dear friends. We didn't see any little owls, but that's not the point. The lovely thing sometimes about going on a nature walk specifically to find something is that you don't find that, but you find something else. So that was a really nice time. And we've got 4 episodes left of the Creativity series till we start thinking about something else. So I would like to give you this opportunity actually to investigate joining the Walk the Pod Lunchtime Walk Club, a lovely community of walkers from all over the world who support the show and keep me in shoelaces and the odd tea bag and the odd glass of zero alcohol beer at the end of a series and that kind of thing. It is so lovely to have a group of walkers all over the world to share my walking photos with and to catch up with about what they're up to right now. We have Robin in New Zealand, who's entering into the New Zealand winter as we speak. Have Mighty Marcel in the Netherlands, and all kinds of folk all over the UK as well. And I would particularly love to have some members of the Walk the Pod Lunchtime Walk Club from Germany, from America. I know we have listeners in both those countries. Haven't yet met them. So if you're listening in America or Germany, do go to walkthepod.com. Have a look at the Walk the Pod Lunchtime Walk Club, please. Drop me an email, walkthepod@gmail.com to say hello. Or reach out to me via the Walk the Pod Facebook group or at Walk the Pod on Instagram. There are many ways to catch me around the place. I don't have a particularly active social media life because I think one of the reasons that I found being creative tricky in the past was the requirement not only to make the thing but also to share the thing relentlessly, and so I'm not on social media quite so much because I just find it easier just to actually make the thing rather than also try to push it out there. And that means I am rather dependent on you, dear friends, to tell your friends about Walk the Pod, because the marketing is not really happening. So word of mouth marketing is wonderful. If you can let somebody know about the pod who might enjoy it, might incorporate it into their walking practice, I would be ever so grateful. Thank you for walking with me. It's been a delight to stretch my legs with you this lunchtime in the rather damp park. I feel we've covered what I wanted to cover today quite well, which is to try to make creativity slightly less mysterious and seem slightly less daunting. So I hope it's worked. I hope you feel a bit more like you could possibly consider yourself to be a creative person if you don't. And I'll be bringing more insights over the next 4 days into creativity, and I'd love to know what you think as well. You can leave me a voice note via walkthepod.com. Take care of your beautiful mind, yourselves and each other, and I will be back with episode 7 at around the same time tomorrow.